Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. The Phils bullpen implodes against the Miami Marlins of all teams. Do the Phillies have a bullpen problem as we head into October?
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us for today's show. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You might know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air doing sports talk radio for 97.5 The Fanatic here in Philadelphia for over 5 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. The Phillies lose to the Marlins in an extra innings, rain delay extended game where Christopher Sanchez was dominant and the bullpen was not. Yeah, it was a rough ending to that game at the back. Last night felt like it should have been easy, right? Sanchez dialed, goes 7 shutout, only allows 3 hits, none earned. Light work. All right, ball game over. The offense got going early, and then they tapered off in the middle. And then when the chips were down late in the game, they were able to score enough runs to force it into extra innings. But the reason they were forcing it into extra innings is because, well, the Phillies just couldn't get the job done on the mound out of the bullpen. So we're going to discuss whether or not they have a true bullpen problem heading into October with only 5 games remaining on the schedule. We're also going to talk about some roster news from today. Edmundo Sosa was reinstated from the injured list, and with Alec Bohm and Trey Turner out there on the injured list over the past couple of weeks, you may have even forgot that Edmundo Sosa was not playing. Sneaky big to have Edmundo Sosa back. And then we'll preview Phil's Marlins Game 2. The Dodgers did lose last night, so that means the Phillies' magic number is down to 1. We'll look at all the stuff that happened around Major League Baseball and why the Phillies should just win tonight and get it over with. But let's talk about this bullpen thing, because last night I told you Christopher Sanchez, he was awesome. And you can say, oh, well, the offense didn't get enough done. They should have done more. Well, Schwarber hit home run number 54. They scored 3 runs early. They're still without Trey Turner. Bryce Harper was out sick. He's got like flu-like symptoms. He's going to be fine for October, but you're not making him play for a game that doesn't really mean all that much or anything. So you're down some big-time bats. I can't look at the offense, but everyone in the bullpen was ready to roll, right? You just had an off day. So everyone should be available, should be rested and everything like that. And they didn't get the job done. And this is not new for the Philadelphia Phillies bullpen. David Robertson goes out, and in 2/3 of an inning, he allows 2 runs, only one of them earned, but he gives up 3 hits. He gives up a bomb. Tanner Banks gets out of the 8th inning, but then Joan Duran gives up 2 hits, and he gives up a bomb. Like, what in the world is going on with him lately? He's given up multiple home runs in a Phillies uniform when he did not really do that for a long, long stretch prior to the trade deadline. And then Orion Kirkring gives up 2 runs, only one of them earned because he pitched in the 10th inning, which has the ghost runner on second, which wasn't an earned run. Now, I'm actually going to defend Kirkring a little bit from last night. And then Lou Trevino is not going to be a guy that gets postseason innings, so we don't really have to worry about him giving up a run in the 11th with the ghost runner. I'm not too worried about that. But let's go chronological order of when they came into the game. David Robertson. He wanted to throw last night because he has not been good in back-to-back outings, right? He'll have a really good outing, and then the next time he throws won't be so good. And then the next time he throws will be. He's back and forth. Now, it's pretty darn consistent that this is where his numbers are at from appearance to appearance. Not great for the postseason, but somewhat understandable because of age, right? Dude's 40 years old. He's not just going to go out there and be a workhorse reliever for you anymore at this point in his career. So the Phillies are going to have to manage very carefully when they use him. As much as my trust in David Robertson has grown significantly since he's joined this team, I would feel more confident in leaning on guys like Matt Strahm or Tanner Banks because of, well, youth, right? Because I know those guys can go out there pretty much every day throughout the postseason and not have too much stress on their arm or anything like that. Like David Robertson, you do have to. I hate to use this example. I use this tongue in cheek. I'm smiling. If you're listening to this in podcast form, like I'm chuckling while I say this. Uh, he's kind of like the old adage of like, well, you got to help the old man cross the street. You get your Boy Scout badge for it or something. Like you do have to be ginger with David Robertson in ways that you don't for younger relief pitchers. That I think is more of just a managing when and how you use him thing. If you just randomly throw him out there at any given time, I'm going to tell you it's more likely than not he gets the job done, like much more likely than not. But if you start to use him often over the month of October, that's where you could run into some trouble, which is why everybody else needs to be on point. And that brings us to the next guy that threw in Jhoan Duran. We're going to skip Tanner Banks because Tanner Banks did nothing wrong last night. Duran is going to be just fine. I promise you. Okay? I have 0% worry about Jhoan Duran. I want to read you this text message that I got this morning because we have, I do morning radio on 97.5 The Fanatic, and we have a text line. So callers and listeners and everything, they can just shoot a text and I get it to this app on my phone. And this one just it made me laugh. This texter, David, said, Duran is Craig Kimbrell with a cool walkout song. Guys, we need to calm down. All right, do me a favor. Just everybody take a deep breath. Is the bullpen looking great right now? No. Do we have a bullpen problem? There are cracks in the dam right now. Does it mean the dam's going to explode? No. If we get there and we just seal it up a little bit, we should be fine. Or if we just mitigate those cracks, we've only got to last through another month, right? And I know it's high leverage games in Red October, but I don't think we have a major bullpen issue. And when people start reacting like that, it reminds me of one thing. And this is something that is just a tenet for the next 5 days, right? Everything that goes wrong, the closer you get to October, is going to feel significantly more impactful. At the end of the day, right? It's not. It really isn't. These games do not have the intensity of October baseball. They do not have the opponents of October baseball. And some of you might say to that, well, then won't it be harder for them to get guys out? But what I'll say to that is don't let what's happened this month for the Phillies, or really all season for the Phillies, go by the wayside because of what you're seeing in a handful of games right now. All right? They were never going to be as red hot as they were in the early part of September. The bullpen is not going to struggle as much as they did last night consistently over the course of a postseason. Like I don't believe it's going to happen, at least for guys like Duran, Robertson, like Strahm, Banks. We'll talk about Kerkering in a second because that could be a different story. But I'm actually going to defend him for last night. But I want to let people know. The second I get a text of someone comparing Jhoan Duran, who throws 103 miles an hour, to Craig Kimbrell, you're losing your darn mind. Don't do that. He's going to be fine. He's just, I think part of it is pitch selection. And that's something JT and he need to get together on because that's been questionable at times since he was acquired at the trade deadline. And I believe they're going to figure that out. JT's one of the best pitch callers in Major League Baseball. They may eliminate some pitches and spots that they've used in the regular season once it comes to October. The belt gets tightened, and they'll take those away if they see them as an issue. But I trust Jhoan Duran implicitly. All right? And then that brings us to Kerkering. And here is why I'm going to defend Orion Kerkering last night. He didn't look good again. I don't want him pitching in the 8th inning of a playoff game right now. I don't. But What's the one thing we've said about Kerkering that you need to avoid? You can't put him in quote unquote dirty innings. He doesn't do well with inherited runners. Pitching in extra innings, you naturally have an inherited runner. Guy starts on second every single extra inning due to the new ghost runner rules. Now, that doesn't happen in the postseason, right? There is no ghost runner in the postseason. You play it straight up. And he got put in that situation last night. Now, should you be able to pitch in those situations? Yes. Do we know that by the numbers, Ryan Kerkering has allowed like 50% of his inherited runners to score this year? Yeah. So the Phillies wanted to go with Kerkering in what was still a high leverage spot. He was forced to be in a situation that has not been advantageous to him this year. He will not be forced to be in those spots in the postseason, right? Now, there will be spots where you say, hey, I'd like to go to him here, but I can't because I have runners on. And does that restrict what the Phillies bullpen can do? Absolutely. But we've kind of already come to terms with that, right? Last night was a unique situation where Kerkering had to be in a spot that he has proven he is not good at. The Phillies, I still firmly believe, can avoid those spots in October. So that's how I feel. I don't think the Phillies have a bullpen problem. Am I a little bit worried about them leaking oil, quote unquote? Sure. Some of these guys had to shoulder heavy loads at the beginning of the year due to, well, not a lot of guys in the bullpen being usable. So could that be weighing on them? Absolutely, which is why it's important that you score as much as you can in October, that your starters go as long as they can in October. But don't let one game against the Marlins completely scare you off the idea that this team has enough to get through October. Do they have a embarrassment of riches in the bullpen? No, they're not the Padres, right? But they don't need that. They can survive on what they have. It may just be a little tricky. So don't lose your resolve now, Phillies fans. You got to believe in the offense and the starting pitching. And then the bullpen is kind of an ancillary piece of this team. But we knew that. All right. So don't get scared off this by just a game against the Marlins that probably annoyed you more because it went extras and was delayed an extra like 45 minutes to an hour, right? And made your night longer. Or at least that's how I was feeling with a 4 a.m. wake up. But something that doesn't annoy me at all, Edmundo Sosa, he was reinstated from the injured list today. I'm going to tell you why that's a sneaky big move by the Philadelphia Phillies and one we might not have thought of, but they're really going to need. All right, let's talk about Verge. Because what do you get when you have a bald eagle standing on top of a silverback gorilla riding a T-Rex? Confidence, pure confidence, right? If you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Verge Go Long. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis, and maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond that usual pill, that's what Verge Go Long is. This isn't just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula, so you can get hard and go the distance. The effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. The process is simple. You can connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. And if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly right to your door. If prescribed, so that's the perfect way that you want to do it. And if you're ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom, head to Rugiet.com. That's RUGIET.com and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB and you'll get 15% off your first order. That's Rugiet.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Make sure to use our code so they know that we sent you in for Verge. Let's also talk about Game Time because, man, is it the time of year to be going to these great sporting events and events in general. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person. The only thing better is catching a playoff baseball game live, and that's coming to Philadelphia soon. But actually getting those tickets is the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees. It takes all the fun out of it. That's why I use Game Time. the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time's fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. So you're always going to get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included. So the price you see, that's the price you pay. I'm going to Phillies Twins Saturday with my mom, my brother, my sister-in-law. We got our tickets through Game Time because I knew it'd be super easy to do. And of course, we got that relationship with Game Time through Locked On. They've always taken care of our listeners and taken care of us. It was simple. We got great seats. I already know what the view is going to look like because they show you that when you buy them. And the price they showed you was the price I paid at checkout. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, and download Game Time today. Edmundo Sosa was activated off the injured list today, and he will be available for tonight's game against those Miami Marlins. Now, why is this so big, right? Because Trey Turner's progressing back. Trey Turner saw live batting practice against minor league arms yesterday at Citizens Bank Park ahead of the matchup with the Marlins. So once he's back, then, well, doesn't he play shortstop, and Stott moves back to second, and Bohm is over there at third, and when Harper's not sick, he plays first. Why is the Edmundo Sosa news so big, Connor? Well, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you exactly why. Because this dude is the spark plug to this team. We forget, because of the new shiny toy, how Edmundo Sosa used to kind of impact the mood of this baseball team. Think about it. This is going to be hard to do because what a gift this guy has been. Harrison Bader is kind of the outfield version of Edmundo Sosa. Even though Edmundo Sosa has played a little outfield this year. He had that ridiculous robbed home run down in Atlanta much earlier this season, which still feels like it's crazy it happened. But when Harrison Bader joined the team and is going on his red hot stretch, and another hit last night for him, by the way, has changed kind of the vibe around the team of like, oh, wow, see, this is just what we needed to pump up the outfield production. And he seems like a great personality to have around in the clubhouse. People gravitate to that. The players, the fan base. Think about all the people that you've talked to about the Phillies over the past, I don't know, let's call it 2-3 weeks. How many of those conversations have been about Harrison Bader? A lot of them. He's probably mentioned a good amount, but don't let that make you forget about what Edmundo Sosa has been to this baseball team, right? The beautiful thing about Edmundo Sosa is he feels like the ultimate just plug and play guy. Now, Bader, he's done that, but to have that also for the infield is hugely important. I love what Otto Kemp has done for this team this year, right? Who he just got the, I believe it's called the Paul Owens Award for the minor league hitter of the year, system-wide for the Philadelphia Phillies. And he's well deserving of that, considering what he did in the minors to get his chance at the majors. And then he's hit 7 home runs. He went yard last night for his 7th home run of the season. Pretty darn good production for a guy who's been up and down over the course of the year. But when I looked at Weston Wilson playing second and Otto Kemp playing first and saw what the Phillies currently had last night during that game against the Marlins, it was just a reminder that, okay, there are levels to this, and the Phillies are not at their highest level. If you ask me, who do I want getting postseason at bats, I could pick one of 3: Weston Wilson, Otto Kemp, or Edmundo Sosa. Sorry, boys, but I'm taking Edmundo Sosa every single time because I've seen him have big postseason at-bats, and I've seen him make big postseason defensive plays, and I know that the moment is not too big for him. Otto Kemp's looked really good. Is the moment in the postseason too big for him? I don't know. You're taking a risk if you put him in those spots. Same with Weston Wilson, who had a really rough night last night, and he feels like he's getting down near the end of his rope as far as contributions to this team. Like, I think we're coming to the end of the line on the Weston Wilson Railroad. And he'll hit the stoppers and the team will move on, and that will be that, right? And it's not that I'm trying to say the guy stinks or anything like that, but I'm saying for how excited we've been about the contributions from Weston Wilson and Otto Kemp, you have a better player now coming back. And I think part of the whole high vibes of the team and the winning streaks of series and things like that and what they've accomplished in the past couple of weeks of September have kind of made you forget that they haven't had Edmundo Sosa for a little bit of time. But he is a very, very valuable piece. And I guess this is just my Edmundo Sosa was Harrison Bader before Harrison Bader conversation. So big time news for the Phillies to get him back. Also good to get him back with 5 games to play. I would play him as much as possible. He should play shortstop. Bryson Stott should play second base tonight. That has to be the defensive alignment. Or flip him if you want to keep Stott as short, whatever. But Sosa should play as much as possible to get back used to being out there and facing live pitching so that he is ready to roll for October. It wasn't a lengthy absence for him, but he's one of those guys that you won't give him days off or anything like that. By the way, speaking of days off, if you want to sit JT Realmuto down for the rest of the year, totally fine. He took a foul ball off the hand catching. X-rays were negative. Thank God, because you can't lose anybody at this point in the season. But he may be another guy that you want to avoid having a situation where the injured list checks in. But all that being said, my real point is this, like, it's a sneaky big move because of what it adds to the depth. And the Phillies have already been winning with lesser depth. So another step in the right direction, getting Edmundo Sosa back. The Phillies are getting healthier right at the time of the year where you want to get healthier. Does that translate to a win tonight? And with what happened last night outside of what's going on with the Phillies, so we take a look around baseball next, what does a win tonight for the Phillies mean? Well, the magic number over the Dodgers is 1, and you know what that means. We'll talk about it as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about FanDuel as a fire truck drives by my apartment. Hopefully you guys don't have background noise on that, but the NFL season is here. Maybe it's a FanDuel fire truck letting you know that FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff of all the great NFL games. They've got a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And FanDuel's the best. They have so many cool features that show you all the bets you can make, and they've got all your typical bets to place on your big sporting events. You can bet money line. You can bet spread, sure. You can also bet player props. You can bet team props. You can bet futures. You can bet all of this, over-unders, everything that you want to bet on FanDuel. Put together those parlays and make a couple of bets into one big one. They've got it all. Now, what you want to do with the $5 bet that can get you $300 if it wins is just bet it on something with really good odds. You don't have to try and jump up the payout. You're going to get $300 if that bet wins. And then you take that $300 and you put it towards all the stuff that you want to bet on through the postseason for baseball, the football season, basketball and hockey right around the corner. That's the way to do it. So are you ready to play? I know you are. So download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, let's take a look at Phillies Marlins Game 2. Jesus Luzardo is going to be on the mound tonight. His final revenge start against the team that traded him this offseason. And it will be his final start of the regular season. The Phillies only have 4 more games after this. Christopher Sanchez is throwing the final game of the year on Sunday to set him up for starting Game 1. So this is the last time we'll see Luzardo before October. It's a big-time start. Because as we heard in the first part of the show, with some listener on my radio show saying Duran is just Craig Kimbrell with a cool walkout entrance or whatever. Like, people are going to majorly react. Notice I didn't say overreact because sometimes it's warranted. But people are going to react heavily. Last impressions are almost as important as first impressions, right? The last impression of the regular season is what translates into the first impression of the postseason. So that's what we're going to be watching for when Jesus Luzardo takes the mound tonight. He's going to be facing Ryan Weathers, who has had a solid year, solid 33 and 2/3 innings for the Miami Marlins. And he's a guy that you can get after, right, in a couple of ways. So we will talk about that. But what do the Phillies have at stake tonight? I mean, game 158, breaking down Ryan Weathers and how he throws, isn't the most important thing right now for the Philadelphia Phillies, right? Oh, you want to know what happened around baseball last night and what it means for the Fightin' Phils. So with that in mind, let's take a look at some of those big games because we know the Phillies lost to the Marlins. And that sucks because the Brewers went out and lost 7-0 to the Padres on the West Coast. The dream of the 1 seed is not dead and could have felt a lot more alive today if you had won that game. So these games still matter for a little something. But tonight could be the last one that truly matters for the logical piece of the puzzle because the Dodgers lost to the Diamondbacks 5-4 last night. Arizona, a big-time comeback victory after bouncing Shohei Ohtani from the game. Shohei looked a lot like he looked against the Phillies, and then the Dodgers bullpen imploded. And with the Dodgers losing, that means that if the Phillies win tonight, they will clinch a first-round bye. If the Phillies lose tonight and the Dodgers also lose tonight, the Phillies will clinch a first-round bye. In fact, if the Phillies win a single game the rest of their regular season, 5 more to go, or the Dodgers lose a single game, notice I say or, not and, or the Dodgers lose a single game the rest of the way, 5 games to go for them, the Phillies are the 2 seed plus, right? They still can catch Milwaukee, though that seems far-fetched after the Phils lose to the Marlins last night. That's it, right? So you're pretty much locked into that 2 seed bye. Some other things with the wild card, the Mets came back to beat the Cubs last night, a huge win for them. You hate to see it because I hate that team, but they won 9-7. The Reds lost 2-4 to the Pirates. So the Mets now in sole possession of that final wild card spot by a game. But Reds have the tiebreaker. So if they win tonight and the Mets lose tonight, it flip-flops again. So a lot of stuff to keep an eye on with that. And that's important because the Phillies will be playing the winner of the wild card series 2, which is the final wild card seed against the lowest division winner. Right now, that would be Dodgers-Mets. Or if the Reds flip-flop, it would be Dodgers-Reds. So it's the Phillies' first opponent. That's why it's majorly important. But that's what went on last night in the National League. Oh, and by the way, even if you're not a Cleveland Guardians fan, you might want to go check out Locked On Guardians today because they just took over first place in the AL Central. They were down like 15 games on Detroit at a point this season, and they've come roaring all the way back. So a wild developing story in Cleveland with that divisional race. But anyway, let's get back to Phillies Marlins. Now that you know where everything stands in the topsy-turvy world of the 2025 National League playoff picture. So here's where you can get after Ryan Weathers, who is throwing for the Marlins tonight. In 33 and 2/3 innings, he's walked 10 and he's given up 4 homers. So he's giving up a home run in pretty much every 9 and change innings. And he's walking a guy pretty much every 3 and change innings. So you want to be selective. He's got solid strikeout stuff, 29 Ks in those 33 and 2/3 innings. But he's also given up 31 hits. So you combine that for a whip of 1.22, and that seems low, but in that small of a sample size, right? You look at that and say, okay, the walks are higher than you'd want it to be. The strikeouts are he's a solid pitcher, but he's not a guy that's going to beat you like crazy. He just seems like another random, maybe good, maybe bad arm that the Marlins are going to throw out there. Solid lefty. And the Phillies, well, we'll see if they'll be able to take advantage of that. We do have a lineup for the Phillies tonight, so I'll give you this real quick before we wrap up. Harrison Bader's batting leadoff. Kyle Schwarber batting second. Alec Boehm batting third, which will tell you, Bryce Harper's still sick. Nick Castellanos batting cleanup, playing right field. That's interesting. With the lefty in there, though, makes sense. Otto Kemp playing first. As I told you, Edmundo Sosa should be at shortstop. He is. He will be batting sixth. Weston Wilson's in left field. I know people rolled their eyes at that because he had a bad night, but a righty to face a lefty. Bryson Stott at second base. Lefty-lefty matchup for Bryson Stott, who's been pretty good, and Rafael Marchand is in the game tonight for JT, who got hit in the hand. I imagine that's precautionary. I imagine that's probably what we'll see for the majority of the remainder of the season. As far as their careers against Weathers, I mean, between all of the guys in the lineup, they have like, I don't know, 18 career bats, so nothing too crazy. And they have a couple of guys that are 0 against him. In fact, Stott, Sosa, Castellanos, Bohm, and Bader are all 0 for their career against this guy, but none of them have any more than 4 at bats. So I wouldn't overthink it. Just put together good patient at bats. Luzardo should shove against this Marlins offense that isn't that good, and you take advantage of that. You win the game, you lock up the 2 seed, and then everything else is just positioning for postseason, right? And by that, I mean getting the guys to play that need to play, not even worried about where you're seated. So we're right on the cusp of Red October. Do not lose your resolve. Do not give up on this team. You've come this far, right? Don't freak out about the bullpen, even though there are some guys that are going to be need to be managed differently as we get into October. But the Phils are going to be fine. I promise. Now, what is fine? They will be a competitive team in October to the level of which you've seen. The only way we can find out if they win it all is you got to keep on watching. I don't necessarily mean keep on watching Locked On Phillies, but I appreciate it when you do. Once again, we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you're checking us out in podcast form, you listen to today's episode, please make sure you're rating and reviewing. If you watch today's episode, well, hit that subscribe button on the Locked On Phillies YouTube channel if you haven't yet. It's free and easy, and it'll get you notifications when new episodes are posted. So it helps you out, and it helps me out. I appreciate that very much. Tomorrow, we'll be reacting to the game and hopefully a locking up of the first round bye. And then we get into all those fun conversations about, rest versus rust. And yeah, I know, the age-old question. But for tonight, go win a ball game. And maybe let's do it without the rain and without the extra innings. I'll talk to you tomorrow on our next episode of Locked On Phillies.